And I ain't hit no drop in a minute. No, I'm about my business.
Peppers Got Podcast, episode 61.
Mm-hmm.
Is your host, Diggy Metro.
Bailz Pagliacci.
First and foremost, I wanted to apologize to you guys. Had some family trouble. Had to deal with that. So long hiatus wasn't just for no reason. We were going to take a little hiatus, but not a fucking month-long hiatus.
And I got fat, and somebody stole my catalytic converter, and I got fired from the FM Mecca project. As you guys have seen, he's going away as a rapper, so that's what we were doing.
Can we talk about that? Let's
yeah.
We really wanted to get into the relationship between artists and the labels.
I think this is a problem. This is kind of fits right in there.
Yeah, it does. Okay. Did you see why they dropped him from the label?
Yeah, because it was basically racially insensitive to the community that they didn't think, to ever check in on or ask, how do you guys feel about this AI robot reflecting a black person and probably having white label execs kind of create everything? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really odd thing to happen. It does bring me to, do you think that they're going to make AI musicians going forward that are going to be successful? Maybe not so like racially divisive.
Yes, and that's kind of where that, that Web 3.0 space shit comes from. And those are the kind of ideas that kind of pop up. But we can still see where it doesn't really fit with like the real world and like what actually happens, because it's like, you just can't do that. And honestly, it fucking blew my mind that he actually got a feature from Gunna. And I actually listened to the song. I'm like, what the fuck is this? But like I said, there's some that thin line between, all the Web 3.0 and all the fucking, what do you think it's called again?
What, AI?
Not the AI, but the other shit that people be selling.
NFTs.
NFTs. Like, that's the type of realm that we're going in. It's like, yeah.
He
got signed.
Yeah. I feel like the problem with AI musicians would be that like music comes from feeling and like the soul. And if there's none of that, I don't know how we would be able to, you know what? Actually, fuck that. Because a lot of the music that we're putting out is not.
Yeah, it's basically AI technically.
Exactly. It's just copy and paste bops. So I could see why that would work for certain genres. But like if you're talking about like R&B, I can't see that working for like an R&B record.
No, definitely not. I don't see that either.
You know what I mean? I think that if it requires human emotion, it won't work. Now, if there was like AI techno, what would be the difference?
I don't see no difference with that.
You feel what I'm saying? And maybe like a techno DJ or a producer would be like, you're fucking wrong. But like, I think for something that's 4 on the floor, doof, 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 doof,
way easier to fucking make up.
I can't see how that would be a problem. You know what I mean? Now, when labels start signing an AI artist, that's when it starts to get kind of tricky.
And I think that just kind of, I know we were going to talk about the divide as far as like, artists and labels goes, but it's like that one for me was like kind of like a red flag there, because like that kind of just shows you where the music is kind of going to. It's like, all right, if we can just create a fucking robot, keep 100% of the rights of that said robot, don't got to really do any tours and things like that. It's like, let's try to see if this actually works, which ends up being more so profit for them. But it's like, that's when you're going a little bit too far in my mind. You
know what I think it speaks to? I think that we as musicians need to do better.
Yes, that's also, yeah, you ain't lying.
Like if they feel like they could create something computer generated that's going to make the same impact as us, then that's a real problem. And that speaks to us not putting forth our best effort.
You ain't lying.
I think that if all it is them taking a bunch of phrases that like would be said in a hip hop song and jumbling them together, I think then you could look at that and be like, okay, we're not doing our part. What people forget about music is that it's supposed to be a story. It's supposed to be from the heart and from the soul. There's supposed to be this emotional connection to music. And I feel like we are losing that.
Yeah.
We're not doing our part in putting that forth. And that's a problem.
I think that's why that initially, past all of the race stuff and everything, even if that wasn't the case, and maybe they, fitted this character a little bit differently. I think that's where the issue still lies. Like, where's that real emotional connection? Because at that point, it just feels like, all right, I just have a Fortnite character making music for me, and I know this is like kind of like coming from nowhere.
Yeah, but what's the difference to me getting on a track, every single track, and being like, pull up a foe, shoot you in your face?
No, I'm saying like real people can connect to a real person doing that more so than.
But if it's every person doing it, is there really a connection, or are you just connected to those words?
You're just connected to the words.
There's certain words that in like trap music or like drill music, if you just say this sentence, it works. You know what I mean? Like there doesn't actually have to be any reality behind it. There doesn't actually have to be like any type of actual connection. You know, it's just like there's no and I like when certain drill artists do talk about their environment and like where they come from and like what brought them to doing this.
Mhm.
But I feel like there are certain artists that it's just like every song is
It's
the
the
same
same thing.
shit. It's about sipping lean. It's about shooting people. It's about fucking someone's bitch. It's the
Rinse
same
and
shit
repeat.
over and over and over. And I've recorded some of those artists, so I know. You know what I mean? I've sat in the studio with a lot of those artists and recorded their songs and thought to myself, this song sounds a lot like the last song.
Mhm.
And the song before that, and the song before that.
Which kind of was going to happen with the same thing with the FM Mecca thing. Because like, where's this backstory coming from? And even if there was a made up backstory, who can really relate to that? I can't relate to being an AI person. I can't relate to, having a robot.
Depends, bro. I mean, there's a lot of like computer geeks out there that maybe would connect to that type of thing, you know?
I would hope not. I hope you guys
Maybe a
aren't.
lot of gamers and shit like that wouldn't find it to be the worst
And that's what I
thing.
think they were trying to get to, because music and game is kind of, they're trying to merge it all into one. Putting.
Well, I mean, bro, look, they're having concerts in Web3 where it's like
yeah,
you're going to someone's avatar's concert. What's the difference? That's not actually Young Thug there.
oh yeah, well,
Yeah, he's
I
the
definitely
voice
watched
behind
yeah.
it. You know what I'm saying? But like, that's not actually him. So what would be the difference between taking that and then making an artist that has the same type of sound and wordplay and putting them in this virtual realm? You go to their concerts the same way.
I'm really interested to see, because they're definitely going to try to come up. It's probably not going to be Capital, but it's probably going to be a different record label. That's
I
gonna
think Capital will do it again. I think they'll do it again.
That's you also right. I think a lot of people are gonna try to pick up on it too, because it makes sense, like in a business sense, because you get out that issue as far as artists complaining about, this is what I did, and I think they also was talking about how the voice of the AI person
Was
or
TK.
he wasn't compensated or some shit like that. So
Well, it was TK. He's in jail.
wait. The voice of FM Mecca was
TK.
no, the fuck
The
it wasn't.
Rays. If you listen to their voices,
Oh
it's the same
my
shit.
God, that's crazy. That makes even more fucking sense. All right, so
Where's TK signed?
oh shit.
I wonder if he signed to Capital.
And you know what's funny though? Once again, on the business side of things, it makes sense to me. I understand why it was done. That's where it like literally comes down to. No backlash. There's no issues like, as far as like the artist, I want my publishing, I want to remake my songs. This is an AI that we created.
I would think that at that point it becomes buying software.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Rather than me sitting here and giving an artist a deal who needs to fulfill certain obligations and do all that, I would just be paying the AI developer for the software, and then we would just take it from there. Which is different. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you are getting a loan, but you're required to, as a human, you're required to then put forth effort and try to actually make music. With that, it's like, all right, let's input these keywords that are said in every single trap song, and let's see what this comes out with.
And you can still possibly get writers and get people to add on to it, but you're still going to keep mostly all the revenue because it's not a real physical person.
Yeah.
And you can, once again, that virtual tour shit is opened up now technically in the Web 3.0 world. So it's a good idea, but they just executed it wrong, if you ask me.
So where we're at in this conversation is actually a good place to kind of carry over into what we wanted to talk about originally. And that's the relationship between artists and labels, and why your approach should not be one of like, fuck the labels. Every time that I hear an artist say, fuck the labels, they're just trying to steal from you. Fuck the labels, they're just trying to rob young artists. I hear someone who knows nothing about the labels. I hear someone who knows nothing about business. Every company is trying to do what's best for their company. It would not benefit a company to do what's best for their client if it doesn't also benefit the company. If me and you agree on terms, you are obligated to see out those terms. And here's the cold shit. The paper's in front of you before you sign it. You're supposed to read that. That dotted line is not supposed to be signed until you understand every single thing that's on that paper. And I understand that there's lawyer jargon on there. But That's why you get a lawyer involved. That's why you don't just excitedly go into a meeting and sign a paper that you don't know what it says. If you've never read a legal document before, you should not be in an office signing a paper. And that goes for anything.
And the way I look at it is more so, let's even like looking beyond the paper, right? We all know that there's always a money figure behind. So that's when that paper doesn't make any, who cares about what the paper says? What does the number amount show? And funny enough, I was watching like a old Wayne's episode where basically like Marlon was basically portraying like some black stereotypes or whatever.
Mhm.
So they were all like, oh, look, we have a contract for you to sign, so you'd be the spokesperson. They're like, make sure you read over it. And then they instantly let's go to the compensation. Compensation gets shown. They don't care what the paper says. Let me just sign this paper and get this money. And then that's how we end up in all these situations. Because once again, a lot of times when we're coming up, we just want to get that quick bag. We want to make sure we get the money, what we feel like we need or that we're supposed to get because we're an artist. But then you don't really look at the fine print and just realize how quickly that money just disappears. Poof, it's gone. And now you're sitting there upset about said terms, but all they had to do was flash the money value in front of you. And you're like, once again, I know people can say, oh, they're trying to, lowball me or do some terrible antics, but it's like, no, it's literally just, let me just show you a number. And if you sign, that's on you.
Here's where it gets tricky. You're putting a figure in front of someone who has never seen anywhere close to that amount of money.
Exactly.
Whether it be $100,000 or $1 million.
I ain't see it.
You're putting that figure in front of someone who has not seen that amount, nor do they know what to do with that amount.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the times they're just excited that, first off, they're excited that someone is interested in their music.
Mm-hmm.
Music's passionate, something that we all love and we love creating, right? So like the fact that this entity, this company is willing to take a chance on your music, you're already excited going into that room. I could see why you look directly for that number and you say, oh, $100,000? Yeah, sign me up.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know any of the stipulations. You don't know the breakdown. You don't know the splits. Like, there's a lot of things that you have to factor in before you ever sign that dotted line. And the first thing that you need to do, and shout out to our homie Sue, you need to get an entertainment lawyer. Because that entertainment lawyer, their one job is to make sure that you walk away with a good situation.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also going to tell you if it's a bad situation. They're going to tell you, look, I have never seen a contract that poor. Do not sign this line. And here's the thing. If one person is willing to sign you, there are others that are willing to sign you. You go in with any type of leverage. If you're getting signed to a label, you have some sort of leverage.
Yeah, it's somewhere in there.
There's something that label sees that they think they could make money off you.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that they won't be the only one. And even better than that, you could use that meeting as leverage.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I had a meeting with these guys the other day. This is what they offered me. I'm looking for more. I'm looking for better terms. They wanted to do 70-30. I want fucking 60-40. Impossible in most cases. Or they wanted 80-20. I want to do 70-30.
Put your poker face on.
You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a poker face. These could be like legitimate things.
Yeah.
You know, you're actually in that office. You saw the breakdown. You saw what they were willing to do. You know, I want access to your whole marketing department. They weren't going to do that. They were just doing some publishing.
You guys, if you guys would be provide this, then definitely no problem signing with you guys.
And if you do not sign, if no one wants to meet your number, then you continue doing what you were doing. There's a reason why you're there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you continue to build up your audience. Because again, you're not in that room unless you have an audience.
And you'll hear a lot of upcoming rappers that are independent who are doing, things big. Like I've heard Saba, for example, say it numerous times. Like, they was offering me $1 million. I was like, that's not enough. Because he possibly knows what he's really able to possibly achieve all by himself, or until they tell him the right number. The same thing like Code of the Friend, I hear them say it a lot of times in their music. And that's kind of like another reason why I always recommend, we kind of get tapped in more so with the independent or the up and coming artists that are trying to make it, because they're more so aligned to your struggles, more so than like the signed artists. And even though some signed artists go through that same kind of trial, a lot of times it doesn't really happen that way. So definitely want to make sure you guys kind of tapped in with those people to hear the certain things that you would want to hear or know, because a lot of times they be spitting game and they'll be telling you certain things in the music, but you probably don't know about it because you're focused on, what the signed artists are talking about, which usually ain't really about the business.
Or it is about the business, but they just didn't read the contract correctly. Like, a lot of the complaints that come from artists are like shit that they should have known. Well, I'm only seeing this amount of money. It's like, yeah, did you recoup? Did you make the money back that they gave you? If you spent it on a car or a chain, like that money is still required back. So did you get that money back? If you're talking about, yo, I haven't seen a dime since that first check. It's like, yeah, because that was an advance.
Same thing like with the shit with the, Fabio and Mace when he was talking about how he only gave him a certain amount of money. And that kind of, within watching it, if you guys haven't watched it, watch both sides and just see how certain information will be kind of held as from an artist standpoint. And then on the label side, when you hear everything that goes down, but when Mace explains it, it's like, oh shit, well, it sounded crazy what Mace had did to Fabio at first. When you start really understanding the business behind it, you say, okay, wait a minute. I kind of understand where Mace is coming from. More so on his side of how things kind of spiraled out of control. You know what I'm saying?
Because we've talked about it before, bro. Like if I'm signing you, if I walk up to you and I say, yo, I'm going to give you $50,000 to get your career off the ground. But here's the contract. I expect this amount of this. I expect to own the masters. I expect this and that. And if that's written in paper and you sign that, you cannot complain at the end of that. As much as you want to, as much as I might have duped you in that deal, as much as you feel like I duped you. Because, yo, here's the thing. Like, we only talk about an artist getting robbed if that artist becomes wildly successful.
Yeah.
But what about all the artists that did not become wildly successful, that got the same deal and the person giving the money up got fucked? We never talk about that. We're only looking at these megastars who are like, wow, they only saw this amount from this. And it's like, yeah, but that label might have signed 50 other acts and none of them made money.
Because you can think of the situation like with Meg Thee Stallion, the same thing when, Lil Uzi was going through that thing with Drama and them, there's a lot of artists that's like, they're initially, they don't have much. The label puts a lot behind them. Said artist blows up kind of unexpectedly to everybody else around them. And then at that point, it's like, all right, I'm doing all these tours, I'm getting all this. Where's the rest of my money? And it's like, no, but even though you've blown up kind of crazy in a small amount of time, that original contract still stands. Like, we didn't expect this. This kind of just happened out of nowhere.
Because here's what you need to understand, bro. Like, when it comes to a label head, like say like a DJ Drama, if he's paying for your clothing and he's paying for all this is all business expenses. These numbers are being written down. You might see it as, oh, he took me for lunch. He's not counting that.
Oh, that's a write-off.
But like, these numbers are all written down. So at the end of the day, I know how much I spent on you. That shit's all in my bank statements. I could add all that up and I know how much I spent on you. So at the end of the day, it's not like those costs just go fucking
disappear.
Yeah, exactly. Like, these are actual things that, like, I'm going to look at a piece of paper at the end of the day. I'm going to look at my QuickBooks self-employed and I'm going to see how much I spent on what. And when I look at that, I'm going to say, okay, this was for this. This artist required outfitting and all these different things. I went to the mall with you and I bought you clothes. But those are expenses. That's money I put on you. Like, these are all things that the label's putting forth. Yo, no one talks about marketing. No one ever talks about marketing. Every artist talks about how their music is not making them back money, but it's like, what about the marketing budget? Like, what about all the money that your label put forth for marketing? Where does that money come from? Like, you just think that it comes from the label and you don't have to pay that back?
It comes from somewhere.
You feel me? Like, and on top of that, a lot of these labels are offering you a certain amount, your advance, and like, they're expecting you to do your own marketing with that money. If I give you $100,000, your marketing budget is in that $100,000, unless you negotiated something separate.
And just I want to actually, with the shit you said about QuickBooks, highlight us if you're trying to be an advertiser, but. Definitely, if you are an independent artist and you did, start your LLC, and you do get a business credit card if you are able to do so, definitely get the QuickBooks. So this way, when you are doing the marketing and you're spending things on your career, that it's actually being tracked. So when, that tax time comes around, and if you do have another job, which you should, which we always recommend, that you can be able to use that in those files to be able to just get get those write-offs right away. So definitely check into that. If you are a self-made artist, definitely go to QuickBooks.
And all you need to know about QuickBooks is that it's the same company that runs TurboTax, Intuit. And basically all it is you connect your bank accounts, which in the case of an LLC would be your business bank account. Or if you're doing a sole proprietorship, it might be your regular checkings account. But you connect your account, it writes down expenses. You could label those expenses. So at the end of the year, when you print out all these files or you send these files off to an accountant, everything's labeled. They know what everything is going to. They know what's a tax write-off. It just sorts everything for you. So again, that's
shit, it even tracks mileage.
Right.
And I use it. I pay it monthly. It's like $12, $15 a month. Once again, they're not paying us for this, but it is a fucking useful tool.
It is, for sure.
It really is a useful tool.
QuickBooks Self-Employed is the best thing to use for a young person starting a business.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps track of everything. And how it tracks mileage is the app on your phone tracks the movement.
Anytime I come to the studio, I track it, just swipe that bitch off, and now, guess what? I'm ready.
Yeah.
It comes out.
So yeah, it's a good software to use. But yeah, getting back on track, I think that a lot of artists that go into this business go in with this mentality that because they're the star, they deserve all the money.
Mm-hmm.
And they factor out all the people that helped them in the process. They factor out the labels that were willing to take a chance, that did put money into their career. And they think that money is just like like you did that out of off the strength.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's off the strength in business. If me and you come to terms and I pay for something, I'm expecting that money back in some way. If I went and I got your album mix for a stack and your album drops, I want that stack back.
Yeah, and it's just...
And once that stack comes back, we can do our split. But like the recoupment comes first. You don't see money before the label gets their money back.
And I think it's just a lot of times, it seems like the labels are being, quote unquote predatory, which, sometimes those type of things do happen. But like you said earlier, it's like when it comes to business, somebody always not going to be the loser. It's not like a lose-sum game. I forgot exactly how that shit is structured, but you got to understand that you're going in there and knowing that they're looking to make a profit off of you. But you have to be in the mindset of knowing that. And how can you use that to make a profit for yourself in the long run as well? Because a lot of times, some people will take a fucked up deal if they feel like later, 2, 3, 5 years, 2, 3 albums, whatever the case may be, that with that exposure that they're potentially going to make, the money might be slowed up initially. But once that shit, once that deal is over and they try to shop the market around next time, now they see the more money that's going to be presented to them, or they can use that to leverage themselves in a better position. Perfect example is somebody like, Meek Mill. I know that he's saying that he's going to be independent or whatever the case may be, but, or Drake could have been independent too before he, signed away all his shit. At that point, they could have definitely went independent. It's a reason why certain artists like that don't do it, because they understand that the leverage that they're able to make and the business ventures that come on the outside of just having these kind of semi-fucked up deals, the music, the money from that ain't really going to mean nothing compared to what's overall.
You're signing a deal for a relationship.
Yeah.
You're signing a business deal in order to get access to the marketing team from that company that's way more established than you going on Instagram and Facebook and marketing yourself. You're signing that deal because they have dealings with Coca-Cola.
The resources.
They have dealings with all these companies that they might give you a sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the resources that come with a label are important. And these are all things that you need to have access to. So that's why you're signing the deal.
And that's why sometimes you'll sign up not a fucked up, but the money doesn't have to be straight up correct right then. Like here's like that kind of shit they said you're gonna take, what is it, 500,000 or going to like dinner with Jay-Z. Some people say I'll take the 500,000. I mean, I probably would take the 500,000 too, but
fam, you're an idiot if you don't take the 500,000. There's nothing in there's nothing in that conversation that is gonna make you 500,000.
But that 500,000 compared to like a whole fucking company that you have the resources and you could endlessly tap into at any time, and having the connections to make this call to have shit happen, I'll probably take the connections over that 500,000, because now with those connections, I might make a mil, maybe make a mil 500.
How about taking the 500,000 with the connections?
Yeah, you can do both. Yeah, technically, you sign a deal.
If you sign a deal, you're taking the 500K with the connections. You know what I mean? You just have to pay that 500K back. And chances are, if they're giving you 500K, they expect you to pay that back.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that from a business standpoint. I'm saying if I'm signing someone and I'm trusting to give them 500,000, I see something in them that's very profitable.
That cost risk analysis got to be on point for me to get out that type of money.
I wiped through all their following and I saw something in them that I said, they're worth 500K and we will make this money back. And it's probably your head at the label if you don't make that money back.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I sign someone, say I'm A&R at Sony, and I go out and I find an artist and I say, we need to give this kid $500K. And then that kid flops and never does anything. I'm losing my job.
Yeah. Off of
You
his
feel
head.
me? And who knows if I ever get a job in the label again.
Probably not.
You know what I'm saying? I might not get a job at a different label. Because they might go, didn't you
Did you
sign
sign
that
that guy?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's like being the GM for a fucking team that drafts like a bust first overall.
And if you didn't see like Woodstock 99, the people that the promoter who had threw the shit, if you watch the Netflix documentary, it's like, I'm not going to hire that guy for doing anything ever again. You do all such millions of dollars, there's fires, there's too much wild shit going on.
Dude, and that's what this business is. You
Once
know
you
what I
fuck
mean?
up.
Like, it is important to sign the right people, and it's important because that's your name.
Mhm.
You're responsible for those artists now. And that's why that's a good thing. Because if I know that you were the one that gave me this money and you're responsible for me having this money, right? Now I know that your job is to make sure I'm successful.
Mm-hmm.
It is your job. Exactly. It is your job to put me in the right situations because otherwise it looks like you made the wrong move. So I'm going to take advantage of that. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're going into business dealings knowing that I fucking scratch your back, you scratch mine.
Yep,
like this is what it is. I get something from you, you get something from me. And the terms are negotiated on paper. And reading that paper is the important part. Reading that paper is everything.
And just also just knowing the value of the dollar and knowing the value of what is being provided to you, because not everything in life can just be based off monetary gain. Some things come more money comes from other certain things, like those resources, and you end up making so much more in the long run. And once again, like sometimes it may not seem like it right then and there because we get fucking, bright-eyed like the deer in headlights when you see the fucking money there, and then you just get caught up in all that shit. But once again, you got to remember this is a business. You ain't getting no fucking like healthcare in this rap game. Nobody's doing a 401k for you. All that shit comes down on yourself. It's not like a job's going to do it or the label's going to do it for you. So you got to be mindful of all these things. It's not just glitz, glamour, and let's just, party all the fucking time like it's 1985.
And the last thing I'll say is that labels usually have these writing camps set up. Most hits are coming out of writing camps at this moment, right? So they basically take a bunch of artists, bunch of producers, they put them in like, say, a fucking hotel that has a bunch of office spaces. They set up little studios and these guys jump from room to room. That's where all the songs of today are coming from. But being in those rooms means that you have access to new artists that are coming out that are also signed to the label.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know that they're not going to be the next big thing. So you work on those records with them. You have access to all these different producers that now you can get their connections because you guys will work with each other and you get different placements like that. So there are major benefits to signing with a label. You can't think everything is money-based.
Yep.
Like you just said, everything has to fall in line with like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Is it possible to get there by yourself? Or do you have to actually sign a deal that you'll be able to actually reach these heights?
And I tell you guys right now, this shit is hard. It is fucking hard. Like it's definitely hard. Like I definitely just hit 1 million streams all around. It's just like at this point, I spent so much money on marketing for that. It's like, I want to sign a deal. Somebody give me some fucking money to get them resources.
Because you might have thought 5 years ago, if I hit 1 million streams, I'll be happy.
That's it, yeah. That shit don't mean nothing.
Nah, bro, because the money is not there.
Mm-mm.
You know what I'm saying? You're spending way more than you're making. So that doesn't mean shit.
So I need to find somebody to maximize that.
But exactly. And that's why you sign to a label. Because that whatever you spent doesn't come straight out of your pocket. And if you want to be independent for the rest of your career, that's fucking fine. But you better hope that you have a good paying job.
Yes.
You better hope that you're smart with your money.
Yes.
You're smart with your business. You spend it correctly. Like you better hope that you're on point when it comes to your banking. Otherwise, it's going to be a tough road.
Because I want to throw up sometimes. So.
And that's why that independent shit, as much as people talk about stay independent. That's why, yeah, it's the best thing to do. It's the smartest thing to do if you want to keep all of your money. But for some people, it's not a reasonable outcome.
That shit is fucking rough. It's tough, and it is a killer. Like, every time I look at my QuickBooks and I look at the amount of money that's going out and the amount of money that's coming in, it'd be like, I might must use this fucking money to do something else and get a real investment going. But this is what I chose. So,
right. All right, guys. Rappers Guy Podcast. We are signing out. This is your host, Diggy Metro.
Bailz Pagliacci.
Peace out, guys.